Yeah. 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 Ah. This is normal brass federal primers, spear 145 grain hollow point boat tail bullets. But what's special about these is I'm trying a new powder. I'm trying IMR Enduron. I believe it's 4955. That sounds right. If I mess it up, I'll put it, fix it in editing. Anyway, so that's what I have going on today. I'm working up a load with that, and it is kind of cattywampus. There's a good word for you. Bought one this is actually max charge. The minimum charge is down there. This is just an extra round of the Hornady brass that I really... Come on. There we go. I just didn't want to load an oddball one, so I left it there. So that's what I have going on today. Let's get to shooting. So this is with the 7mm Mauser. Very first group I have shot with the IMR Enduron, and it's looking very good. And you can see, no keyholing. Makes me very happy. Well, we still have 4 more groups to shoot. Let's see how it goes. So this is going to seem a lot worse than what it actually is. Because you got to remember, this is almost like a 120-year-old rifle. And keep in mind some of the other groups I've had. So, but when we start to move up in charge, things just they get bad and they don't get worse. So with those 3, next up, I mean, only 2 reach paper. The other one is off. Seems to be a trend with this rifle. But this is really about as bad as it gets. That's like a 4 or 5 inch group, whatever. It's not the worst we've seen. Is it good, especially at 50 yards? No. Is it absolutely god-awful and wretched? Well, we're on the way there, but no. Anyway, this one's more or less the same, but it kind of evens out. Oops, sorry. Kind of evens out horizontally, but it's still pretty far out group. This is the maximum charge, and as you can see, we have verticality going on here, some vertical stringing, whatever you want to call it. But it's still pretty group. So the lowest charge really is really what we have to play with here. So it's not the best showing for this powder. Trying my hardest to block the wind. So this is 7mm Mauser with IMR Enduron 4955, normal brass and Winchester match primers. So this is the minimum charge, and it's actually not bad. Then it opens up. The 3rd charge actually kind of closes up again, and that's not... I mean, it's still not as good as the 1st charge, but it's not terrible for what this rifle's been doing. Here is where things get, oh sweet baby Jesus. So now, and hopefully I can block the wind okay, but you can see, well, I'll just show with the camera. 1, and then 2, and 3. I have ones above all of them. So that is the 2nd to highest charge. I need to cover the wind again. And the maximum charge is where things really fall apart. And you can see 1, and then 2 is all the way up there, and then 3 got up there. So yeah, that's with Winchester match primers. And as you can see, they did not do as well as the Federal, which actually is the exception to the rule with my 7mm Mauser. So still, there's something interesting. It definitely seems to like the lowest charge though, so what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to do some seating tests. I already like what I see. Okay, good. So this is me playing around with seating depth with my 7mm Mauser with IMR Enduron 4955. And This has been one of the better groups we shot. This is actually pretty close to the, I don't want to say the original group that we shot, but this is 3 inches exactly. This will be 3.020 and then 040060. So we'll be working our way up. I do have some company here out in the range, but they're on the pistol range, so it's all good. And yeah, I kind of snuck out here late in the day because they had an event going on, so this is the only time I could get some free time out here. Nice. This is just seeding out from 3 inches 20 thousandths longer, but look at how much of a noticeable change in impact we have. It actually goes down. And that's tough. I'm going to have to see these targets. I'm actually going to have to measure them because I'm not sure. I mean, because it's not as vertical, I would say this is a better group, but I want to know the extremes. And actually, the more I look at it, the more I think this is the better group. I think this is actually slightly smaller. Maybe by about half an inch, just eyeballing it. I'll save the targets. And we have 2 more groups, 040 and 060. Let's see how they do. Okay, so this one's going to be really hard to see because of like the angle of the sun. I'll just reach my hand through the giant gap in the target, and you can see, boom, right there. And it did open up. And also the point of impact changed quite a bit. It went actually a little bit to the left, but also way far up from here. I'll wait till they're done firing. I had high hopes, but in the grand scheme of things, that actually opened up. It's a shame, but you want to know something? I'm quite happy with these. I'm going to save them, and I'm going to measure to see which one's the smallest. Okay, so try to get to a place with some better lighting to be able to do this. So I want to do kind of a physical characteristic analysis of IMR 4955. Overall, I really like it, but it definitely is something I don't think I would try to use any sort of automated powder measure for it, or even like I don't want to say drop tube, but mechanical powder measure. You'd want to do it by hand because these kernels are huge, and I'm going to see if I can do this well. And can you see this just by simply, yeah, that should be good enough. I was hoping I didn't have to pour it out in paper. I got a feeling sometimes I might need to do that. But look here. Look at how inconsistent some of these powders can be. That's a huge kernel. It's humongous. And you'll notice that there's some of them that are noticeably shorter than the others. And as for how much this actually affects performance, I'm sure it's negligible. I mean, it still functions just fine. There's another longer one, couple longer ones actually, and some shorter ones, probably just cut in half. But it's just really noticeable, especially when your hand, when you're measuring these by hand, you just notice this. How high of a proportion of irregularities there are. Man, that just sounded weird to say, but you get what I'm saying. Now, let us try, because I guess my thought was, it's probably because these granules are so huge. Well, let's take a look at IMR 3031, which has long, thin granules. So you'd think that these would be subject to more irregularities as well. And you see the usual twisting, occasional one that's kind of twisted, like that one looked a little bit shorter than the rest. But I mean, just at first glance, these look a lot more uniform than the 4955. And let's take a look at another IMR powder, 4320. Pour this out. That might be a little bit much. but let's get this in front. Okay, yeah, and yeah, I mean, straight away you can see, well, I shouldn't say, like, everything looks very uniform. You can see that, yes, upon closer inspection, you can see that there is some irregularities, but nothing that you wouldn't expect out of, like, tiny extruded granules, but much more uniform than the 4955. And then, lastly, for comparison, let's take a look at Vitavori's N540, this other powder that I have. And this I might actually have to dump out because I noticed that it's almost like a type of foil. It's not, but whatever. Yeah, I'm having some issues focusing. So I guess we're going to have to do it the way I feared I would, but it'll be fine. And then I'll have to bring it in closer. Focus. Still having some issues. I think it's actually because whatever coating they put on this, like, makes it so much more, I'm going to go ahead and use the word lustrous. Like, it's a very shiny powder, much shinier than the other ones. And again, you can see it's very uniform. And yeah, you can see, again, there's some, like, you know, that looks a little bit slanted. I mean, a lot of them do. And there's the occasional twisting and knurling that you'll see from, like, it's extruded granules that are cut. I mean, there's going to be irregularities, but compare the irregularities that you see there, which, like, you really have to look for, to, you know, these huge kernels. God, just look at the difference. And again, the fact that some of these look almost like a quarter the size, while other almost like double the length of usual. And you can just readily see them. You don't really have to hunt for them. It's very interesting. But otherwise, you know what? It burns very clean. It seems to perform very well. So I really have no complaints. But it's just, it's amazing. Like, it can't just be the size of the kernels. I guess the main thing I wanted to point out was how, you know, it's not just simply the size of the granules that make it much more easier to notice all the irregularities of the powder kernels. It's definitely just seems to have a higher proportion of it. I don't think it really affects anything, but it'd be interesting if it did. I see that it's still made in Canada along with other IMR powders, so I wonder what difference there is between this and, say, 4831, which it's supposed to mirror very closely. It's not supposed to replace it. It is supposed to be something different, but the burn rate is there. But I wonder if it is just the coating, because actually I've never used 4831, either in IMR or from Hodgdon. So, I don't know, maybe I'll try it one of these days. In the meantime, that's just a brief comparison.